So, if you can introduce yourself to our union and the viewers, who you are, what your role was within UUP, your role on campus, and when you started working here.
Okay, my name is Bill Wiesner. I came to campus in the fall of '76. I was a member of the union from the very beginning. I became chapter president around 1982. I served as chapter president for 9 years. And while I was here, I was assistant vice provost for undergraduate studies. And so I did both full time.
Wow. So there was no release at all for union work.
I had one semester of release time in those 9 years.
One semester of release. So you had no obligation for your state job or part obligation?
Part obligation.
Okay. And how did you do both at the same time?
I didn't even think about it. It's what I had to do.
Yeah. So what did you do? Like mornings at UUP and afternoons at
Actually, it was on an as-needed basis.
As needed, okay.
So I would fit the union stuff in around what I must do for my job. And we did a lot. So I just worked hard.
Okay. And where was the union office at the time?
It was in Old Chemistry.
Old Chemistry, okay.
On the ground floor. I think I was the third union president. Fred Levine was the first president of UUP. And then Charlie Hansen came in there.
Yeah. So Fred Levine, then Charlie, then you?
No. Then there was a professor from psychology.
Okay.
I can't remember his name off the top of my head. Then me.
Okay. So tell us about Fred and Charlie. Were you very involved during their term of leadership?
I knew Fred, but not as union president.
Okay.
So I met Charlie because I was pissed off at how lots of things that were running, and Charlie was the president of the union. I'm thinking, why doesn't he do things? After all, he's making all this money, and then I found out didn't get paid.
Yeah.
And he was just working. So there was a new election coming up, and a woman who was active named Karen Weisberg came over to me and said she knew me, she knew my attitude about things. And she said, Bill, how about running for VP for professionals? And I said, well, why not for president? And she said, I was afraid to ask. And so I ran and became president. And I ran my first exec board meeting, and there was Charlie. I know you're very interested in Charlie, but he's my hero. But that first exec board meeting, he challenged me. He was not happy with somebody who was not very involved with unions before, other than being a member. And I told him he had to cool it. And we became best friends. And he taught me how to be a union guy.
So what was his role when he challenged you there?
He was VP for professionals.
Okay. He was VP for professionals.
Yeah.
Okay. So his term, when he was chapter president, it was after you or it was before you?
Oh, before me.
It was before you. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. So you said you came here in the fall of '76 and you had 9 years as chapter president. What were the years of your chapter presidency?
It's hard to remember exactly, but I think it was from 83 to 92, something like that.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So what about Fred Levine? What was his leadership like that you said you knew him a little as a
I got to know him.
Yeah.
Because my job on campus had me meeting a lot of people, and being union president had me meeting a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so I got to know Fred, and we were a little bit friendly. And I don't know him as union president.
Yeah. Okay. So tell me about so you talked about how your early interaction there with Charlie and how you challenged each other, perhaps.
Yeah.
So tell me. Yeah.
Charlie was a gruff guy. Exactly what you would imagine for a blue collar, really tough union guy. And he, more than anybody I've ever met, was for the working stiff. everything Charlie thought about, did, was always having in mind what would be good for the people who worked. And he taught me the difference between union and management and how to deal with it. And I didn't do it exactly the way he did. But I have a favorite story about Charlie, which doesn't have to do with the union.
That's great. We're people before we're union leaders and after we're union leaders. Right?
So during the Vietnam War, Charlie was a war hero, I think. I mean, I know he got injured in the war. He fought in the war, got a Purple Heart. The injuries he got in the war affected the last years of his life. He was in a lot of pain because of injuries he had gotten. But he told me this story. He was walking with a fellow veteran during the war, and there were a bunch of college kids who were demonstrating and stuff like that. And his buddy said to him, "Charlie, let's go teach these guys a lesson." And Charlie said, "No, that's what we fought for." And that was Charlie.
Yeah.
He didn't just do it because it was what the job supposedly was. Charlie did the union stuff because he believed in it. And he had all this integrity. It was always about the working guy.
I've heard that he was the father of permanent appointment. Do you?
It's probably true.
Yeah.
For professionals.
Yeah. So what is that? What is your recollection of that?
Well, Charlie was involved with the union from the very beginning. It was very influential statewide. And he considered professionals equivalent to faculty.
Mm-hmm.
And he thought, well, the faculty get this, then we ought to get this. And he there was a piece of legislation that he was pushing for, and he and the then president of the statewide union, they never got along after this. They had been friends because he was on the verge of getting the legislature, not he by himself, to get something for professionals, which would have been legislated permanent appointments. We would have been more equivalent to faculty. And the president of the union at the time gave it away.
Was that Sam Wishko?
No, it was Nula Drescher.
Nula Drescher, okay. So that would have taken the language around permanency out of our contract and put it into state law, essentially. So well, tenure, as we know it, is just an academic kind of institution, right? We know that within the SUNY Board of Trustees policies is where there's continuing appointment, and then we have protection and language around it in the contract. So what would this legislation have looked like if that's what tenure as we know it looks like?
It wouldn't have been contractual, it just would have been there.
So it would have been a state law that said after 7 years of service, et cetera, et cetera.
It would be you get tenure or you would leave.
Yeah. So that law would have applied for academics and professionals.
Yes.
Okay. So Nula gave it away for what?
That's what Charlie contended.
Got it.
There were reasons, but we're now going back 30-something years,
yes,
and my memory's not that good.
Well, that's why we're doing this, right? Is it's been 50 years, and you got newer folks like myself who have heard some of these stories, but very incomplete pieces, and we're trying to piece together the narrative across many of the founding and early members.
Yeah.
Okay, so what was your first experience with UUP? You went to that executive board meeting, you talked to Charlie, that person.
There was stuff on campus.
Yeah.
And labor management meetings. I didn't even know what they were. And we started up with them, and it was exciting. It was fun, and we got things done. It was also a fraught time. There were a lot of retrenchments during the times that there was threatened retrenchments during the time I was president. And we decided that we didn't want any. We had picketing, educational picketing on campus. I got a couple of vice presidents to walk on the picket line with me. I had the other union presidents on the picket line with me. And Jack Marburger was the president. He said, we're going to have 140 layoffs. There was a big faculty meeting. president of the Senate said, this is what's going to happen. And I got up on the stage and I said, we're not going to have any, and nobody got retrenched.
That's great. So what were those areas? Was it, I know education had gotten retrenched, right? Earlier?
That was before.
Yes, yes. So what were the areas on the chopping block?
There was no area on the chopping block.
Okay.
They were going to get rid of people, not departments.
Okay.
Or if they were going to get rid of departments, I didn't know what they were.
Got it. Okay. Okay. Interesting. So it was people that were just deemed not research productive enough, or people they didn't like, or who was targeted?
They were probably stuck with the contract that it was going to be last on, first off. That's a guess of mine.
Okay, last on, first off. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so you were chapter president. Did you hold any other leadership roles within UUP?
No.
Okay, so when your term was coming to a close, is there a reason you decided to not continue, or
Term limits.
Term limits. Okay, interesting. So that is what 4
Actually,
terms?
I spent 1 year more than the term limits allowed.
Okay, okay. And I believe it was Janet Steins who followed you.
Janet followed me.
Yes. So were you? What was your relationship like with her? Was that a secession plan of sorts, or was it somebody's got to do this?
No, she was secretary of the union.
Mm-hmm.
We were a close-knit group. Everybody who became president after me was involved with me while I was president until 2 presidents ago.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, the man who preceded you was active in the union while I was president.
Mm-hmm.
But the guy who preceded him, whose name I don't know.
Kevin Moriarty.
I didn't know him.
Yeah.
But everybody else, like, was somebody who worked with him.
Schmidt and Artie Scherzer. Yeah. Got it. Okay. So tell us a story about a major battle that you had with management, win or lose or both.
We didn't lose any.
A good track record.
Well, actually, because when we went to take up a cause, it was because we had reason to.
Mm-hmm.
And Jack Marbury, who was president, listened. So we were fortunate that way. The biggest battle was there was a fire in the Javits Center. It's still called the Javits Center, the big lecture hall. And there were students who were complaining. They came to me to complain about the smell, and they were getting sick. And finally, a member of the faculty came to me to complain. And with that, I went to administration. The VP for the campus, I'm trying to think of the exact title, his name was Bob Francis, said there's no problem there, it's not a big deal. And I went to Jack and we had a meeting and we closed the center. So the Javits Center was closed for cleanup for months.
Wow.
And we had a lot of respect. I remember walking in let's face it, we have no authority. You and I have no authority to get things done on campus. We have to do it by talking to management and getting management to agree.
Mm-hmm.
And I was walking in the administration building and somebody said, is the Javits Center open yet? And the person who responded said, no, Wiesner hasn't approved it. And I'm thinking, I have no say. And it's not up to me. I don't approve or disapprove anything. But the union had that kind of respect on campus.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, it was a good thing.
That's a very good thing. Yeah, we Javits is being renovated right now, and it's been closed for a while, but that was completely management's prerogative. So yeah, it's been interesting.
Yeah, it's hard for me to recognize the campus. There's been so many changes since I left.
Yeah,
I left 23 years ago.
Yeah. And you still live in the surrounding community?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So what are you up to since you left?
I started a new career as soon as I left, and I became a divorce mediator.
Okay.
Which I did for 20 years, and I retired from that a year or 2 ago.
Wow, that's good.
And now I'm going to start a new career.
Oh yeah, and what's that?
I'm going to be a life coach.
A life coach. Okay.
Yeah, I'm all trained for it. I just have to work up the guts to take on some clients.
Yes. Do you find that your experience with the union leadership set you up for these post-SUNY careers? No.
Other than being in a sense it did, because I got a lot of confidence. doing it. I was dealing with the power structure on campus as an equal.
Yeah.
And so I developed some confidence from working with everybody in management on campus.
Yeah.
So all the president, all the vice presidents, a lot of department chairs. And I also was a member of the Senate, and I was president of the Senate while I was still president of the union.
Oh, interesting. So what was so you were doing both roles at the same time?
Well, it didn't take a lot of work to be president.
You run a Senate meeting once a month. Yeah.
And I think I'm the only professional who ever became president of the Senate.
Yeah, that's certainly possible.
And that came out of being the union president.
Yeah, yeah. So you were union president first, you got exposure, and then you became Senate president. Did you
only first semester, by the way.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yes.
So I would say what was your experience beyond that direct collaboration of collaborating with shared governance bodies on campus? Were there issues that you were able to be on the same page on, maybe some that you weren't?
Oh, we always worked together.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was the first union president to start working back actively with the Senate. So there's overlapping areas, and I would there's things that we're not supposed to do, which I did. So I would advocate for faculty when it came to tenure on a non-official basis.
Got it.
But since I had the ear of the president, I could do it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Whatever's in the best interest of the members. You know, worst case scenario, they say no, but you tried.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so what about students, right, and other unions? Did you have coalitions and a solid relationship with those other unions and students?
Had a solid relationship with the other unions. We talked. Yeah, we had a good relationship when there was threats of retrenchments. We would talk. Had a good relationship with students. When the graduate students had set up a tent city on the campus,
yeah,
because they wanted to get more money or unionize, something like that.
Collective bargaining, I believe, yeah.
And so we knew they would be arrested and they were going to be hauled off to the little cell in the administration building.
Yeah.
And so in the planning for this, they wanted some neutrals to monitor to make sure that students were treated correctly and everything went smoothly. So there were
meaning the graduate students.
Everybody wanted to make sure that
yeah.
things were done smoothly.
Yeah.
And so the students and the administration agreed that Paul Chase, who was working in the VP for Student Affairs office, and me would be the monitors of when the students were hauled off, when they were arrested. So they trusted us.
So you were like almost like a independent monitor of sorts to oversee the situation.
That's right. And we were picked by the students and by the administration.
That's great. That's great. So are there instances where everyone was hand in hand united against a single issue? Labor and students across the board?
It wasn't an official connection, but when the Javits Center was closed,
yes,
I had a bunch of undergraduates coming into city on a regular basis to try and get me to do something.
So they targeted you specifically as a union leader. They knew who you were.
I think so.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah, because we have right now we're dealing with this parking issue, you know, and the students and labor are united against it.
Yes.
And I'm curious personally if you know has there historically been other issues where everyone was on the same page? You know, was there a bad state budget or something? Was there, you know, a rally for SUNY funding? Were there in your tenure, you know, roughly not 10 years or so?
The only thing that I remember that was students and faculty and professionals, everybody was Javits Center.
Yeah, yeah, got it. Okay. So what are some of the biggest challenges you faced in your time as not just an active member or not just as chapter president, but as an active member
of the union.
Yeah, the biggest challenges you faced as a UUP leader and a member.
You know, sometimes it was fighting with the union
at the statewide level.
Yeah.
So yeah, tell me about that.
Oh well, we had our PEF rep, you know, the rep from NYSET.
Oh yeah, the labor relations specialist.
Yeah, we had somebody we liked, and they didn't like him in Albany, and so eventually they fired the guy.
Yeah.
He was very supportive.
Yeah. Very supportive of what exactly? Like being more aggressive with filing grievances and improper practice charges and things.
And then we had one rep who I didn't get along well with, and well, we wanted to do something, and she said, "No, you can't do that." And then she went across to the other side of campus to talk to the chapter there. And while she was there, I went to administration and negotiated for what she told me not to do. And so I was in trouble, but of course I wasn't in trouble because they had no authority over me.
Yeah. Well, that's the interesting thing is what does the authority look like? You know, what are there times when there is and isn't authority?
The authority really comes out of developing relationships.
Yeah.
And sometimes if somebody telling me what to do and they can't do anything to me, we could do it.
Well, that's very interesting.
In fact, that was funny because that was one of the times Charlie said, "You can't do that."
Mm-hmm.
And I did it, and he was so proud of it.
So yeah, what about, all right, so yeah, let's hear more about your relationship with the statewide organization. You know, I'm curious what things might have looked like at delegate assemblies and all these sorts of things. Because back then there were 3 delegate assemblies a year, right? Now there's only 2. So I'm curious to hear some more about, you know, your relationship with other chapters and the statewide organization.
I got along with everybody. We all did.
Yeah.
We were all in the same game. There were 2 political parties.
Yeah.
And I got involved right at the time when the parties kind of were really head to head.
Yeah.
And
that was the United Caucus and the Reform Caucus.
Yes. So I was Reform Caucus. All of us at Stony were Reform Caucus. And then there was an election for the president. And what was his name? The guy running for the Reform Caucus was favored, and the person running for the United Caucus was Nuala Treasure. And Nuala won by a vote.
One single vote. Wow.
And what happened is the guy who ran on the Reform Caucus, and now his name will pop into my mind, was a feminist. He ran a feminist press, but there was something he didn't do quite right, and there were people in the Reform Caucus who were pissed off at him. And so when the vote came, they didn't vote for him, they voted for Mickey Mouse.
Oh boy.
And the 2 Mickey Mouse votes got Nuala the presidency.
Wow.
And that was the end of the Reform Caucus in a sense. We never won again.
Wow.
And we would have, once we had won that one, it would have been a Reform Caucus union.
Wow.
And we would have had legislative tenure for professionals.
Wow. So was there the people who voted Mickey Mouse, was it known who they were?
I don't know.
But
I had my guesses.
Yeah. Well, was there a reckoning, so you could say, where the caucus did some navel gazing after that, or no? Yeah. Sometimes people put ideology before what is, you know, what is in the best interest.
It's even true now. If you can't compromise, you're going to lose everything.
Yeah. Wow.
I mean, you gain everything or you lose everything. But if you gain everything, you do it at the expense of not having a general support.
Yeah. So what were some of the, as you say, what I might say, rifts or friction or whatnot between the 2 parties, the 2 caucuses?
You know, I don't remember issues.
Yeah.
It was really personality.
But ideologically speaking, was there one caucus that was more committed to a bottom-up vision and one more top-down?
I don't think so.
No. Okay.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I can't remember. It was, you know, playground fun.
Yeah. I'm gonna take my toys and play over here. And yeah.
I mean, I worked with everybody.
Yeah.
And we all did.
Yeah. So were there, you know, whether at the statewide level or the chapter level, were there divisions between academics and professionals? And what did you do to try to build unity if there was division?
the campus historically, I don't think so much anymore. Professionals were really pretty much at the level of faculty.
In regards to respect and
Everything.
and treatment.
Professionals, the rules of the Senate were that professionals had seats on the faculty senate. Not all campuses do professionals have seats on the faculty senate.
That's correct.
We faculty had their thing, but professionals met with the president once a year. We would meet in the lobby of Solar Center, and Jack Marburger would come, and we'd have a big thing and refreshments and all, and he'd talk to us.
That was just a casual, informal thing, and anyone was welcome.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, they call that Club Red now. What did they call it back then? Yeah.
I was a member of the Senate. I became president of the Senate. Faculty and professors were pretty much the same. And then some new administrators came onto campus, and they felt that professionals were second class. They behaved like professionals were second class. And that was new. I don't know what's going on now. But that just started a couple of years before I left campus.
Got it. So when did you officially retire and leave campus? What year was that?
Let's see. I got a leave of absence. So my last time I worked was in June of '99.
Okay.
But my official retirement was December 31st, 2001.
Got it. Got it.
And that's one of my favorite jokes. So like you work, right? And I say work is so last century.
Yeah. Yeah. I was a lot younger then. So how did, we have a very diverse bargaining unit, right? We have not just academics and professionals, we have varying levels of job security, part-time, full-time. We have folks that are earning poverty level wages, such as our adjuncts and part-timers. And then we have folks who are, distinguished professors making decent salaries and everything in between. So how did you work to build unity when there's such disparate interests and diverse interests and differing levels in the hierarchies of academia?
Well, what I did was argue for, my biggest concern was the adjuncts, because what we do with adjuncts is criminal. And it still is, I guess. They just don't go pay enough. So I advocated it. Obviously, it didn't do any good.
Well, so when you say it didn't do any good, you mean with regards to increasing their job security and salaries and
There are adjuncts in other campuses which have their own union and have negotiated for them. I think Nassau Community College adjuncts. Oh no, it's the evening people, but they are part-time.
Yeah,
have their own union, and they have more security and better salaries.
Yeah, the community colleges, they have their own, if they're nice, they're their own nice at local by themselves, so they have their own local agreements. But we did have that victory this semester for adjuncts. Did you hear about that? So we had published in our Happy Payday newsletter. Did you get the Happy Payday? Yeah. So we had published a special bulletin about the adjunct salary increases. We got 47% salary increases to the adjunct base minima. So they're now making $5,500, which is still not enough, but it's a start.
Unbelievable. So if they teach 3 courses, they're making $16,000 a year.
Yeah. But the minimum before that was $3,750. So, yeah. And then we got the 3-year appointments for lecturers after 2 consecutive semesters. So two consecutive academic years. So
that's terrific.
We've been trying to turn up the heat and bargain and make sure we're centering the interests of those most vulnerable members.
I don't know if this is of interest, but when I was union president, this child care center came into being.
Yes, that's a good question.
I was one of the signatories forming it. All the union presidents were. And they made miserable salaries. And there was a union committee in Albany with the 3 major unions who negotiated for the child care centers. They were all daughter corporations of a single larger corporation. And I negotiated with the people up there. We got a bunch of money, and we started improving the conditions for the people who were teaching. And so right away, they got a 50% salary increase. They don't have tenure, but they got all the other benefits eventually. So they have, they even have retirement benefits. Very unusual for a child care center. Maybe not anymore, but this goes back a while.
I've heard that it was a fight to even get that center here in the first place, that a bunch of union members and faculty and staff had to really work to get that constructed and set up in the first place. And it was primarily for not just the faculty, staff, and hospital workers, but students as well. And
what happened when it was formed and we were setting policy, it was really going to be a problem when we figured out who would be able to use it and who not. And so the rule we put in was anybody on campus could have a child in. We made one mistake. We said anybody on campus, and one woman took advantage of this. She took one course in the evening and had her kid in full-time child care at reduced rates.
Yeah.
And so then we increased the number of hours the student had to be in class in order to have their child. Yeah, the coalition that did this was the executive board of the child care center.
Wow. Yeah.
And yeah, that building is, I consider, my biggest accomplishment.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So your role in it specifically was just helping.
As chairman of the board,
yeah,
I was also the political interface with the campus administration.
Got it. So when you were chairman of the board for that, the center was in the process of being established. It was established and really getting it off the ground.
It was getting it off the ground. The first chair was a faculty member named Darcy Lonsdale. She had a child in there. And then when she stepped off, the meetings were going on too long because there had been childcare on campus in several of the dormitories, and they were parent childcare, so they were all autonomous. So when the center for the campus was formed, they lost their autonomy, and so there was a lot of bad feelings, and so we had to get through that. So Darcy was terrific because she sympathized on both, and then when I came on, it became really building the centers as a business.
Yeah, that's great. Tell me a story about Judy Wiesner.
Judy, I know Judy since before she was full-time. She was working in the same office as me in undergraduate studies. Judy is this wonderful pro-union, left-wing sweetheart. Very positive, very optimistic, and very caring. And so when she became the retirement chair for the state, she really got a lot done in terms of putting us together.
Yeah, putting together the retiree or kind of retiree group within UUP and organizing it and prioritizing goals. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's a hero of the union.
Yes, indeed. How about Michael Zweig?
Mike Zweig, also very active. I know that to some extent you're the president because of the two of them.
They've been very supportive.
I was really pissed off, by the way. I saw the letter which said it's time for new blood, and Ed had only been president for one term. I said, what are they doing? So Mike is very radical. And yeah, he and I got along well. We used to drive up and down to Albany together. Yeah, there's some very interesting characters on campus. They didn't tell you about Cleveland when you were talking.
No, I've actually that's a great question. Yeah, because I know there's a plaque for him outside of the Social-Behavioral Sciences building. And when I had spoke a few months ago with Steve Engelbright, he had said that you had encouraged him to run for office and to get involved in that sense. So yeah, I wanted to know more about you. So please go ahead.
Well, I knew you, well, of course, you was a leftist also. And so, of course, he gravitated towards the union and we became friends. He encouraged me one year to run for the county legislature, which I went to the committee and met with. But he would find things wrong with campus and he'd come to me and we'd get it fixed, including the parking garage, which is about separating. And he could see that.
So like there was cracks in it, and
it was actually pulling apart.
wow.
And he spoke to administration and they didn't get anything done. They came to me. And so I go around, as you know, you go around the vice president and you speak to the president
And you
get
have
things
to,
done.
yeah.
So Hugo Chavez came to campus
Oh wow.
and you knew him. And so he asked me to introduce him. So that's very exciting.
That's great. What was Hugh's role on campus?
He was a political science professor.
Political science professor.
Yeah. And an amateur photographer.
Yes. That's great. And he was very widely respected and well known in the campus community.
I think so.
Yeah. That's great. What are some kind of fights or things that he really stood for?
Oh, he was quiet. You know, he didn't get up and shout.
Yeah.
He supported what the union was doing.
Yeah.
He supported, anything wrong with the campus, he would mention it and leave it to people to do it. He knew who to go to.
Yeah.
So he'd go to the administration. If that didn't work, he'd go to the union.
Yeah. Did you know Ashley Schiff?
No.
No. Did you have any stories about in your time here on campus and the fight for the Ashley Schiff Reserve or anything like that? Yeah, it's an ongoing battle too. As you
I don't know about it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. The Ashley Schiff Reserve is one of the last undeveloped spots on campus, and the various stakeholders are trying to still have it designated.
Yeah, that was going on, but I'm not with the name.
Yeah. Okay. How about Joel Rosenthal? Do you have any stories about Joel?
Joel and I go back a long way.
Yes.
There's my big fight right now is that as a retired professional, I don't get anything near what a retired faculty person gets. Do you mind if I go through what I've done on campus?
Please, yeah. And actually, I know that this is something very important to Joel, and him and I have been working on it.
Okay.
But yeah.
I had my full-time job on campus for 23 years.
Mm-hmm.
I was union president for 9 years. Now, I don't get time off. I told you I got a semester off.
Correct.
I was chairman of the board of the Child Care Corporation for a dozen years. I was president of Faculty Students Administration, the FSA, which oversees all the businesses on campus, for 2 terms. I think I was the first person to be elected for 2 terms. I taught when my doctorate's in biology. So here and there, when the guy who taught physiology, not to the majors, went on sabbatical, I would teach his class. I taught for my last 5 years on campus. I taught intro biology, one section of the course in summer school. And when I went to get an email, I got the same email that somebody who lives in town gets, as though I had never worked here. I don't get any privileges. I don't get any status in terms of getting parking. It's like I never worked here in terms of what privileges I get, considering the service I did. And I'm not the only one. There were professionals who have done incredible service to the campus. And when you leave, they do remember us when they ask for money.
You see the banner when you drove on campus?
Oh, what did it say?
Did you go in the main entrance?
Oh, this is Giving Day?
Giving Day, yes.
Yeah, well, when you're working on campus, it's a great place to work. Good people. It's exciting. People you meet, talk to on an everyday basis. It's wonderful.
Yeah, it's a little community.
Yeah.
But then when you're gone, they don't really necessarily
And
care.
I mean, there are faculty who were on campus for 10 years and they did research for 3 years and they taught and they leave and they're emeritus.
Yeah.
Give me a break. And there were other campuses where professionals get emeritus status. I don't care about the title.
Yeah. You want to have the email address. You want to have the parking.
I want to have parking privileges. I want to have library privileges. I want to have an ID which says something that I'm an academic.
Yeah.
So I can get my discount at Apple or whatever.
Yeah. Not asking for much.
No, no, a little bit of recognition for long service.
Yeah. Yeah. So the struggle continues. Joel and I have been raising this to management for some time, and then he was having some health issues, so he had to step back. But he's back and he's ready to fight.
I would work on it with you.
Yeah, that sounds great. Welcome to the team.
I mean, I can go and say this is what I did, and
yeah,
what are you doing? The answer is nothing.
Yeah. Well, that's why we address issues collectively, right?
Well, when I first did this, I was told you can't do this because you're retired and you're not in the unit.
Yeah.
And unit can only negotiate for people who are working. So I got shut out that way.
Oh.
And it wasn't, and I'm off campus, so I didn't fight it.
Yeah. Well, that's management's response.
Yeah.
We can have a different. So what was when you were president and in your time, what was the relationship like with the Health Science Center chapter across the street?
They had a different style of leadership.
Which was?
I'm the boss, and so you do what I want, or you're not going to be able to participate fully.
And that was leadership's message to membership, or approach of leadership.
We'll put it this way: the guy who was president, if somebody disagreed with what he wanted, he said, "Well, now you can't go to labor management."
Got it.
So there was, and with me, I didn't care if you agreed with me or not. You belong.
Yeah. So it was more of a top-down structure of sorts.
Yeah. But in terms of other people there, I got along great with them.
Yeah.
And I see them with hugs.
Yeah.
Work with them a lot.
Yeah. So when you were in leadership, what were some things that you collaborated on with them? You say you work with them a lot. Was that more at the statewide level, or
more at the state
level?
Yeah. We didn't collaborate in negotiating on things.
Yeah.
The two were really separate campuses.
Yeah.
I assume they still are.
Yeah. Okay. What about this situation with where we find ourselves now? We've grown significantly since your time. Did you see was there a significant growth in membership
I really made a pitch to get a lot of faculty on, and pretty much faculty, the union was not something to be paid attention to. We don't need a union, and they belong because they belong. Bill Godfrey, who I knew and talked to, he said absolutely not. And finally, I talked him into joining, and then he became president.
There you go. And he was president of the Senate as well, correct?
Was he?
I believe he was at some point. Yeah. But yeah, so was that one of the challenges that you had? Was getting faculty involved and engaged and joining UUP in the first place, perhaps?
I wanted faculty to believe that the union really represented them.
Yeah. So how did you communicate that?
I guess in the newsletter to some extent. I had my job before this was I worked at Upstate Medical where I was faculty. So I think it helped that I also could have been faculty.
Yeah.
I taught classes.
That PhD.
There were people who thought I was faculty.
Mm-hmm.
So that probably helped.
Yeah.
And I went to the Senate right away.
Yeah.
And I was an active participant. So I suspect that helped.
Yeah.
Because I would bring union issues up.
How long were you at Upstate Medical before you came here?
6 years.
6 years. Okay, so that was probably pre-unionization. You came here in 76.
UUP. There was a fight about which union would represent.
Oh, interesting.
There was UUP and there was, I can't remember. really going back too far.
This is going back when there were because there were two organizations that merged to become UUP, and
That's right.
that's what you're referring to, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you were initially a UUP member at Upstate Medical.
At the very beginning.
At the very
beginning of the union, I was in.
Yeah. Wow, that's great. And what work did you do specifically at Upstate Medical?
I was a professor, assistant professor of biology.
Interesting.
And I taught in the College of Health Related Professions.
Yeah.
And that's what I did.
So then you left that assistant professor role.
They were retrenching the nursing program.
Mm.
And so I got a job at a small college in Vermont, where I worked for a year and a half, and then I came to Stony.
Got it. Got it. And then when you came here, what role did you have?
Assistant Vice Provost for undergraduate studies.
And that's the role. Is that the role that you held pretty much the rest of your time here?
Yeah.
Got it. And was that one like an SL4, SL5? Do you remember?
Was there a 5?
There, it goes up to 6.
I was a 5. I think that was above me was management.
Yeah. There's very few 6s, so that makes sense.
I was a 4, and then 5 was management.
Yeah.
Or the 5-year renewable term.
Yeah. So you didn't have permanent appointment then? You were like an Appendix A title, or?
Oh no, I had.
You did, okay. But it was a 5-year term situation.
Yeah. The union helped me do that. What happened? I ran the Judiciary Committee, and I had a secretary. When she left, they did not replace her, and they needed a secretary, and I was on the Executive Committee of the Senate, which I got elected to on a regular basis. And I complained to the Senate Executive Committee, so they complained to the president. So the president got back to my immediate supervisor, or the dean got back to my immediate supervisor. So he wrote, Bill Wiesner says he needs a secretary. Of course, I would have just done the job and not worried about it, but I know better than to ask the president of the union to do that. And somebody got me a copy of the memo. And I brought it to Jack Marburger, and he said, oh no, he shouldn't have done that. But when I saw that, I said, okay, I'm getting tenure. That's it. There's no question anymore.
And what came after that?
I got a secretary.
Yeah, that's great.
And I got tenure, but I would have gotten tenure.
Yeah. So is there anything
I wanted to tell you another story about Charlie.
Yeah, please.
As I said, Charlie really advocated for the working person.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty sure it was old physics, could have been old chem, but I'm pretty sure it was old physics, on the very top floor, he knew that there was asbestos.
So when you say old physics, you're referring to what is now known as Harriman Hall, correct?
I don't know.
Because it's my understanding that the original physics building was Harriman Hall, and then they built the new physics building, and that Charlie worked in the old physics building,
right.
so that which is now known as Harriman Hall. Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, I'm sorry.
All right. So the very top floor was loaded with asbestos, so they closed it.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody, it was off limits in a sense. But the CSEA guys would go up there to have a smoke and eat their lunch.
And they didn't know, or
they didn't care.
Yeah.
I mean, most people.
Yeah.
It's back then.
Yeah.
And Charlie was upset about it, so he pointed it out to me, and we brought it to labor management. And this is really Charlie, and we got that reaffirmed. In fact, all the asbestos was cleaned up.
Wow.
Because of Charlie. He kept his eye on campus. He wasn't able to do anything about this. There was a little bit of plutonium out at Brookhaven Labs. And so it was going to be used here. And they put it on a truck and they drove it here. I mean, it wasn't very well protected. The smallest amount of that will kill you.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was outraged. We made a fuss, but of course it was not.
Yeah.
He complained to the chairman of his department because there were faculty people who were doing work and their hoods weren't working, and they were working with stuff.
Like the hood you pull over your head to protect. Oh, the hoods
like a laboratory.
Yes.
And the hood wasn't working, so he would complain. and made enemies of the faculty who he complained about.
Who just wanted to do the work.
It wasn't safe for them, so
Yeah.
he was gonna
Yeah.
make this thing.
So he put safety and what was right first
He
every
put the
time.
well-being of the working staff
Yeah.
first.
Yeah.
That was his most important thing.
Yeah.
And that was his primary concern all the time.
I heard that maybe I'm not recalling this correctly, but I believe didn't himself and maybe yourself and a bunch of folks always hang out at like Fort Jack Hole? Wasn't that like the spot?
I don't know. I did not hang out with him. I would visit him in Florida after he retired.
Mm-hmm.
My mom lived down there, and every time I went down, I'd go spend time with him. And yeah, he called me a friend. I'm proud of that. He says I don't call very many people.
Yeah. So he was I believe he was vice president for professionals at the statewide level too, wasn't he?
That's right.
So what are some kind of things he got done
Well,
there?
he did all kinds of things. For his focus was on the professional employee.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean he wasn't fighting for faculty also. But there was the contract. I mean, let's face it, that's what the statewide union does, is the contract.
Yeah.
Political support, things like that. But the main thing is the contract.
Yeah. There's so many stories about him, and I'm grateful that you shared them with us.
He was amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, the reason you're asking about Charlie is because of the impact he had on people. He had a presence. You know, there are people like that who have an impact. You come in the room and they talk and they have an impact. So you don't necessarily know what he's done or doing. I do, but he would have an impact on you even if you didn't know what he had done.
Yeah. So it's 50 years now for UUP. What is there something that you'd like someone in the next 50 years, if they're watching this video, to know about UUP? What is something that folks like myself who are going to be, working here for the next 20, 30, 40 years, what should we carry forward to keep UUP strong? What would you like the next generation of the future and the current generation to know and to keep close to heart as we try to keep this union strong?
That's actually a subtle, complicated question. Unions are really important even when they're not necessary, because they become necessary when they're not present. So the most important thing for the union is the well-being of the people they represent. That includes the ability to file grievances, to work in a healthy, humanly supportive environment, and salary and benefits. And that's what the union is for. When it gets off into other things, it weakens its main mission.
What are some other things that might get off on?
When it gets political. I mean, it is political, but when it goes off into opinions about the war, a war, when it gets off into opinions about birth control or abortion, it weakens itself because you have members on both sides of that issue. And it's not work related. So for people who want to advocate for issues like that, it should be done outside the union. Keep the union strong, because when the work environment becomes bad because you have a bad boss or because the air conditioning is broken down and it's 100 degrees in there, you need somebody with authority who can go and say, you gotta fix this, we have a contract, this is not allowed.
Yeah.
It's real simple. What unions started for is what we should be doing to continue.
So what are some, that's a challenge that I see, and I'm sure it was a challenge back when you were in leadership as well, is, this isn't Berkeley, California, this is Suffolk County, New York, right? What are some lessons you have for keeping our membership united when, at worst, we're a red county, at best, we're a purple county, but ultimately, presumably roughly half of the people who work here are Democrats, and roughly half of the people that work here are Republicans.
Yeah. Support both.
Yeah.
And the way you support is not by giving money from the union, is by inviting both Republicans and Democrats and whatever to come to campus and talk.
So whether they're like elected officials and the like to meet with members,
you make them welcome.
Yeah.
This is the union. We'd like to hear what you have to say.
And we're not partisan.
And no, absolutely not.
We're not only inviting Democrats, we're not only inviting Republicans, etc.
It's to hear what you have to say,
Yeah.
and then you have individual members who will do what they want.
Yeah. Yeah. So what gives you hope?
What gives me hope?
Yeah, for the future of our union, for working people.
I think the thing that gives me hope is that once people have something that starts going away, they remember, and they go for it again. The biggest danger to unions, and that's what's going on in unions around the country, is I have enough money and my job is secure. What do I need to pay union dues for? And you need to pay union dues in order to keep what you have, because it's always in danger, even if you don't know.
So the challenges with right to work laws and the Giants Supreme Court decision, these are the things you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely one of the biggest challenges, that we're facing. And we see that with, back when you could say, hey, you should join, it's free. So why not? Oh, okay, sure. Now we can't say that.
Well, I could say you should join because you pay the dues anyway. And you
Exactly.
You might as well have a vote.
Exactly. And that's something that we don't have anymore. So
yeah. Is that right?
Well, that's the Giants Supreme Court decision.
Is that true in New York State?
Yeah, it's national.
So people don't have to pay the dues?
There's no longer the agency fee. So what you said about
not goodness.
Yeah. Yeah. So what you said about you should join because you're paying anyway, that's not true anymore.
Whoa.
Yeah. So we have
and the other part of it is you get a lot of the protections of the union even if you don't belong.
Well, so that's so we don't have to represent non-members for disciplinary matters.
Really?
Yeah. So we're allowed to withhold that. But
so what I would be doing is saying we will represent non-members, but we think you'll understand.
Yeah.
Now, if you're in a bad work environment, we'll represent you, but keep in mind that other people are paying for that.
Absolutely. And this is what we say at every orientation.
Yeah, and if it's your colleague, not you, and you care about your colleague, we're there for them.
Yeah. It's there's a lot of challenges right now, but I personally have hope because I see Starbucks, I see all these other unions organizing. A lot of folks just they've had enough and they want a better future.
What happens when the union is gone is everything erodes.
Yeah.
It's infrastructure.
Yeah.
And you live in Suffolk County, you see what happens when you don't pay for infrastructure.
Yes, look at our roads.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That'll happen to the working party.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks so much for your time.
Andrew, it's been a pleasure.
Absolutely.